right, so let's start this video with a little introduction. So my name is Leanna, and I am starting this video collection for anybody who is in a similar situation as myself, or hopefully this inspires somebody to be the best version of themselves. So I wanted to start this blog a couple years ago, or these video series a couple years ago, but it just wasn't the right time. And now my life is entering just a different season, and it's right. So hopefully we'll get this up and started. And if any of what I say resonates with you and you find your way, then I hope that this is helpful. This is in no way meant to be any medical advice. I am just an ordinary person following my own journey, and if my journey helps and inspires you, then I hope that it does. So I am starting this because I am literally, I'm a plus size woman, and I always have been. I am now entering or a little beyond middle age, and I have been obese my entire life. So my entire life I have struggled with obesity. I have been heavier than I am now. I have been thinner than I am now. I have been healthier than I am now. I have been more unwell than I am now. So I've been on all the sides. And my goal is to really live the best life that I can, as healthy as I can, no matter what that number on the scale says, and no matter what the size. So it took me a lot of years to really break away from that mentality that I had to be what the magazines depicted that we are, and to break away, because that was instilled in me from very young age. Even though people didn't mean to instill that in me, they did, with really innocent comments that were not really that innocent in retrospect, but they didn't know that. These were people that loved me, that said, you're so pretty, you have such a pretty face if you were just, and you'd be so pretty if you were just smaller. When you say that to a 10-year-old or an 11-year-old, that those words hit so hard, because it just puts into place for our young girls a place we don't want them to go. So saying that, over my years, I've struggled with disordered eating. I have always struggled with disordered eating, and that's where we are today. So today we are finding ways for myself that I can enjoy the best quality of life I have with in my journey. So my journey has taken me all over the place, but the reason I call this a keto low carb journey is because my diet, I know, has to be as low carb as I can get it for my body, because my body reacts so terribly to carbs and sugar that it spikes my blood sugar, and I have uncontrolled eating after that. And so I started a few days ago with saying, I'm going to take you on my journey of what I'm eating. And by day 3, we dipped off that wagon because my cravings were so intense. I had some really unplanned days at work. And when I say unplanned, it was that I didn't plan, I didn't prepare. And so I hadn't packed things that I needed to be successful for when I have a work day. And what that means is I need to pack my lunch, because I got caught in a situation and that I was starving. I was so hungry because I was having really bad cravings. I was so hungry. I had not packed my lunch. And not only that, but I didn't get to eat at lunchtime because I had an emergency at work that trumped me having lunch. And we all know how that is, right? So therefore, I was out of my office. I was on the road, starving, and that's the feeling I had. And so what does that mean? You stop and you're like, I'm gonna just eat the fries. I'm gonna get the burger. I'm hungry. Like, my hunger trumped all else. Like, I'm gonna gnaw my arm off. And we have all absolutely been there. Now, I could let that derail my entire progress of what I want to do, what my goals are, I could let that derail me, or we can pivot. So this video is about learning to pivot. So we can chalk it up to, okay, that happened. I might have been able to make a better choice, but in my mindset, there was not a better choice to be made, because anything else that required a better choice required more time and more planning than I felt I had. Could I have had more time? Probably. Could I have waited? Yep. Would the hunger have passed? Sure. But in my mind at that moment, nothing was more important than feeding my body. And if you've been there, you've been there. Okay? And I'm not one of those people, I wish I was, that said, you know, I'm so stressed, and when I'm so stressed, I don't eat. That's never been me. I'm so stressed, bring on the cookies. Because that has always been my way out. Those give me the good feelings that this brain wants. And I wish it was different. I wished it was different for me all my life, but it's not. And so if you're in that spot where your brain functions like that, okay, you're not alone. You're not alone. But if you have a bad day, if you're on a journey to get healthier, if you're on a journey to live your best life, understand that a bad moment doesn't have to be continually bad weeks and bad months and bad years. That we can learn to pivot. So we can say, okay, I did it, and how can I pivot? How can I change the next meal? How can I change this so I can get back to what I want to do? And for me, what that looks like is not necessarily jumping right back into being as low carb as I can or anything. What that means for me is regulating my blood sugar to the best of my ability so that my body can just try to find some normalcy. And the way that I do that is I might eat another meal that has carbs in it, but can it be less carbs than I had before? Yes, let's try that. And the way that I try to do this is by just keeping consistent with having a meal, not snacks, not going to that candy dish, not grabbing a snack and then a meal, just seeing if I can weight the destination to my next meal and make that next meal the best that it can be. And this can be also hard for people. You know, I am living in a household with 2 young children and my spouse, and they're not necessarily low carb, nor do they want to be. Should we all be eating less carbs? Yes, but they're not necessarily in a position to do that. So when I go home and my next meal consists of potatoes that my son has cooked up, pork that they've taken out of the freezer and unthawed, and you know, a vegetable that I might not, how do you pivot? How do you say, okay, how is mom going to pivot here? How am I going to incorporate what my family has done because this is what they did that they felt was right, nice, and wanted to start dinner? And how do I pivot away from that? How do I pivot and say, thank you for creating this lovely meal, and eat something here that I can? That means you eat the pork. Maybe you cook another vegetable that is more, that is less carbs than what they had cooked, avoiding the potatoes. Maybe it is frying an egg and saying, you know what, I'm just going to add an egg to this because it's soft and I want something softer. You know, that's a pivot. And that's what I want to put out today, is how we can pivot and make things different. And I think that that's really a really important message. So I want to come back to this because I think that there's more we can talk about when we talk about pivoting. And, you know, this isn't necessarily what I ate in a day, because if I showed you what I ate yesterday and the day before, it's not low carb. It was really the cheeseburger and the fries. Because I'm honest. I'm going to be totally honest. Is that going to get me where I want to be? Not soon. But you know what? I'm not looking to sprint to the finish line. We've done that. We've done that and it doesn't work. So this is how we can make our choices lifelong and make them stick for the long term. So I will be back.